trying to
probably
remember.
swung that same hammer 50,000 times,
Yeah.
you know. It's,
And I don't know.
statistically, though, at some point, you're gonna hit your thumb.
Oh, yeah.
It's
She
just-
has to work
As
on
many
Detroit
nails as I drove in a
sometimes.
day.
Yeah, right.
She'd have a heck of a time.
Guess I did that for 25 years.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have some battle wounds from that, there's no way around it.
A lot of nails.
Nobody heard from Jim Clark?
I've not heard from Jim. I have heard from Lori,
Okay.
and we've heard from Konsky, so. We ready? We're online? Okay. At, who's got an actual time?
7:13.
7:13.
Okay. Call this meeting to order at 7:13. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Okonski, Christian,
Here.
Lacy,
Here.
Steele,
Here.
Clark, Henderson,
Here.
Goldsmith, DeSessa,
Here.
Kinnaman.
Here. Okay, we need a motion to excuse Goldsmith and Okonski.
So
They
moved.
both contacted us. Okay. So moved. Second? Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the amended agenda.
I second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Minutes from the January 22nd meeting.
I didn't see any issues with it. Go ahead.
Correct. You're gonna make that as a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
I will
January
second.
22nd meeting. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Statement of purpose. Do we have someone who would like to read our statement of purpose? for
I'll go ahead
us?
and read it.
Thank you.
The mission of the Holly Village government is to enhance our community's quality of life. Our organization strives for quality services, responsive action to citizen requests, and a cost-effective government. We promote citizen participation, proactive decision-making, and environmental quality. Most importantly, we shall always serve the citizens of Holly. The Village of Holly will be a prestigious historical village that is a green residential oasis from the city and a center of commerce and activity for the region.
Thank you. We have no public hearing. Public comment. We have no one for public comment.
We have no public.
Text your questions in online. So we will move to new business. On our new business is the Village of Holly text amendment for donation bins, police power ordinance, section 157.008 and 157.059.
Alright, so only some minor changes were made from last time I presented this. We switched it over and made it a police powers ordinance.
Correct.
And part of that is I added definitions at the beginning. And then on D2, I added a permittee will have no more than 2 business days to empty their bin and be in compliance with the provisions of this ordinance after being notified that their bin is full. And that change was at the request of the Planning Commission.
Okay.
There were no further changes.
I did notice that there was legal documentation on where they had tried to sue Ypsilanti Township, which is where this one, which was the model for ours, correct?
Yep.
And that was denied. The motion was, or the request was denied. So as I read through it, it was, virtually all of it was, yeah, ain't happening. So this looks like we have, we've got a much more solid, something that will stand up.
Yep. We carefully avoided all the issues that other municipalities ran into.
Very good.
And this still will have to be reviewed by Gildner's office before it goes to council,
Okay. So our motion would be,
to send it to Gildner's.
okay, good, yes.
I got a couple questions. One is there a sample application put together yet? I know we got the rules. What
No.
about the application? What would that look like?
Mr. Henderson, can you put the mic in front of you, please?
Yeah,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I believe the application would be put together by town or village staff.
Administratively.
Yep.
Okay. Will that be presented to us before we go forward with this? I'd like to see it.
No, that will just
No?
be an administrative approval, and that will
Okay.
be a generic document that we'll take probably from Ypsilanti's.
Okay, okay. What about the, one of the other things I was concerned with was the number of bins that one applicant could have.
So I don't believe we put a cap. Is that something you're interested in adding?
I believe so, yeah. I mean,
I'm-
from my perspective.
yeah, I'm wondering if that would, because it would start to restrict, if that would give them reason or cause to be able to file suit.
So what about per location, per application, if they come in and they have permission from the state bank to put one in their parking lot, can they put 6?
I would be more comfortable going with a location standard instead of just X number of bins per applicant.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I would have to check if there's going to be any legal issues that I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing something like that, as opposed to having the applicant put 6 bins in one parking lot at one time. Because it's just gonna clutter things up like we've experienced already.
Well, the owner of the property would have to give permission to those, to
Mhm.
that many bins
Okay?
as well. So, you know, I'm not sure, even, I know the location that brought up our desire to look at this.
Right.
They only ever really gave approval to one, or it started with one.
Yeah.
And when it became 4, you know, it was, we had never expected that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I don't know of a business owner or a property owner that would be in favor of, you know, more than 2 or 3 bins at their location.
But is it
Because if
possible to put
against-
language in there to cap how many can be per
Yeah.
location? I mean, can you do that legally? Can you say, okay, there can only be 2 or 3, you know? Can you arbitrarily decide a number and set that number?
I don't think there's going to be a problem, but that's something I would want an attorney to look at before
Yeah.
we make any kind of decision. Another possible solution is we already have locational standards. It has to be so many feet from property lines. We could introduce language that it can't be within 10 or 15 feet of another donation bin, and that would cut down on how many people could fit, or how many could be fit on any property.
If we go with that, though, we gotta be careful, because they could have one in the southwest corner
Yeah.
and one in
Yeah.
the northwest
And then,
corner.
rather
and
than
then
a
we have 'em-
cluster, you've got,
That might be
Spread
worse.
out all over the place, yeah.
well, and from what I gather, I mean, even what brought this all to the forefront, I don't believe from speaking to the property owners that they had approved any.
No.
There was just one sort of dropped off there, and
Mhm.
they kind of let it ride,
Right.
and then it just started sort of multiplying.
You're talking about the ones at Airport and Saginaw?
Yeah.
In the
Yes.
parking lot, yeah.
Which are
Yeah.
all gone now.
I'm so glad to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Because I look at that corner every day.
Yep. Well, it just became, I can't tell you how many times I
Is
had
that a-
taken the dumpster over there with the fork truck to
Yeah.
clean up the junk over there. It was just a couple of months ago, I think was the last time we
Mhm.
went and did it.
Right.
Well, that was, I mean, that goes back to my concern, the limit and the number of units that can be on a property. And then the same with limit the number per organization. I just think we need to put something in there that will give a guideline to how many I can put at the corner.
So if we went with a cap on how many could be placed on a particular property, what kind of cap are you thinking?
Zero.
I like that.
There's churches, there's Goodwill, there's tons of places to
Right,
take your
that's-
stuff. I don't.
That's where we've,
Well, I think it's gonna be like two.
Two?
you know,
All right.
Per group is what I would think, it'd be two,
2 per location.
yeah.
Per parcel.
Would it help, Corey?
2
if
per
you were to,
parcel.
Check Ypsilanti, since we got their ordinance from them, what do they do? Do they have a cap? I don't, not saying we have to model exactly what they're doing, but you got the sample ordinance from them.
Right, I don't believe they have a cap, otherwise we probably would have worked that into the ordinance.
Okay.
But again, we'll check with an attorney.
Right.
I just think we need to be very careful about that.
Sure.
To my understanding, they're gonna have to file individually for each one, pay for that
Correct.
filing for each one, so it may, and, I mean, I understand the idea of wanting a cab, but it may sort of be self-regulating in that they're not going to wanna annually pay and fill out this paperwork for 4 or 5 bins.
Right,
And they're also gonna have to have a scale drawing too, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, that changes the dynamics a little bit as well.
Right.
And plus, a lot of property owners that have been in Holly have seen what has become of what having them dropped off. They don't want that on their property,
Right,
really, for businesses. I mean, I wouldn't.
right.
And to be honest, the groups, I mean, I dealt with the landowners that wanted to get rid of the ones that were existing on that property. And they called and called and called and called and called, and nothing, it's almost like these companies are sort of parasitic in nature. Where it's,
Yeah, no, that's good.
it's not a very stand-up, it's not in the vein of what you would think it would be. Like,
Right.
somehow or another, they're getting paid for every one of these that they drop off, regardless of whether they pick them up or where the stuff goes, if it just goes into a landfill.
How does this apply to the school district?
how do you mean?
The same rules apply to the school district
Yes,
for donation bins?
it applies on all village property.
Okay, okay. That answered my question.
And so that applies then, like they have recycling bins, paper recycling. Are those falling under this because they are a donation? I think that's part of what
Well,
needed to be
I think they would-
broad.
I think there would be a gray area on enforcement if it was a recycling bin versus a donation bin. Because in my eyes, those are two separate entities.
But
Well, that's why I
think-
put a
I
definite,
think that's where they were able to do their first lawsuits that got us,
Well, if you look at the definition of donation bin, it says the term does not include recycle bins for the collection of recyclable materials, any
Okay.
rubbish or garbage receptacle.
Okay,
okay,
I know, my son goes to Holly Ellen, when they do donation drives all the time, it's constant, it's year round, but it's always inside the building and separate.
Right,
laid out
it's their own
boxes.
stuff,
Kid goes
right.
in, puts his jar of peanut butter in, it's not
Right.
just left out front to
Mhm.
keep up.
yeah.
So do you wanna have Roe put in some language to talk about the maximum amount of donation bins per parcel?
Only if it does not open the door for,
Legalities.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so then we should, table
sorry,
it.
Well, consult with the attorney to see if it's
Well,
something we can
we
add.
we can say we want that language added, and with
Gilna.
that language,
Gilner will review it.
refer it to the
Gilna.
attorney.
Perfect.
So,
Keep
you
it
know,
moving.
with the modifications we talk about this evening.
So for my clarity, we're gonna postpone this for another month? Then,
No.
nope,
We're going to authorize this, we're gonna recommend this to the attorney
Okay.
with the corrections that we talk about this evening.
and then
for
bring it
review.
back next month?
And then it'll have to come back to us, yes.
Okay, because then we have to have a public hearing
Right,
the following month. Okay,
yes.
no problem.
Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Sound
because we gotta have the
process-wise?
language for Gilner to review it.
Right, yes. And once he reviews it, then we'll bring it back
Okay,
for review and then,
Public hearing for council.
and then vote on setting a public hearing.
all right. Are there any other changes? Any other comments?
Anybody see any other changes you would like? Then I would entertain a motion to refer this, the text language to our attorney for review.
Support.
So moved.
Okay? There's your motion, there's your second, to refer the Village of Holly text amendment for donation bins, police power ordinance, section 157.008 and 157.059, with the modification requested this evening, to refer that to the attorney for review.
And that clarification is a maximum of 2 bins per parcel?
Maximum of 2 bins per partial.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Okonski, Christian,
Yes.
Lacy,
Yes.
Steele,
Yes.
Clark, Henderson,
Yes.
Goldsmith, DeSessa,
Yes.
Kinnaman.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to old business, master plan.
All right, this has been postponed since November, so hopefully you can remember kind of what we were doing, but I'm gonna read the objectives and the actions with the changes that Ro is proposing. And then if you have any comments or if you want to make any changes, let me know. So we already did about half of it, so I'm going to be starting on Uptown sub area. I believe it's on page 2.
And so we're looking at this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Which is magnifying glass.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you guys got it like I did.
The last 3 meetings, I did do the very big ones, and we never went over them, so
Okay.
Okay.
I did do it.
That's okay.
Tonight we were supposed to have a big presentation, so.
We're gonna rely on your reading.
All right, I will speak clearly. So starting with Uptown sub area, our first objective is to strengthen the Grange Hall North Holly Road area as the village's new center. Actions, identify a site for light industrial office park to strengthen the tax base and assist in the relocation of industrial uses from elsewhere in the village. 41% disagree with the expansion of industry area, according to our survey. So expanding industry is not very popular, so we're proposing relocating it. Any comments?
So we're talking about industrial, as opposed to office.
Yes. So office uses are permitted there, but we're proposing the relocation of industrial uses.
So industrial sites that currently exist, to begin to relocate them, or unoccupied locations?
My reading of this is we would be permitting industry in different locations and encouraging them to move, but we wouldn't be forcibly relocating
Right,
existing.
well, we can't forcibly
Right.
move someone, but,
So yeah. So my reading of this is that it would be a change to the future land use map.
yeah, I think when we get to the land use map, we're gonna have quite a bit of discussion.
All right. Is everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we removed the next action item because it was a duplicate. Modified the zoning ordinance to incentivize desired visual improvements such as streetscaping and lighting. Designate gateways east and west on Grange Hall Road and enhance with signage and landscaping. Require new development or redevelopment to provide sidewalks along the frontage of the site by modifying the zoning ordinance. So a lot of design standards. Limit and reduce the number of commercial driveways for better and safer traffic flow. Continue to phase out old, non-conforming, dilapidated signs. And consider incentives and or zoning ordinance amendments that would require existing businesses to upgrade their building and signs.
It's really hard to follow this with this small thing.
Sorry.
Where are
Do
you?
you need me to repeat anything?
Hold
My
yours
pages
up and
go
let's see
1,
what
3,
it looks
5,
like.
and 7.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're missing some even numbers.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
I was
thought,
gonna say, we,
thought there was something wrong.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
1
I see
through
what
5.
you're looking at.
So we're missing the even numbers
Yeah.
pages is what it's looking
Oh,
like,
okay.
Corey.
Okay.
We have 1, 3, 5, and 7.
Approve all even numbers and let's just work on the.
I don't know if it'll be useful to proceed unless they
I mean, I can go
look at
make
it.
some copies.
No, we have to proceed. Can you do page 3?
If you wanna start there, I can go get the other copies and make them.
All right, page 3.
Yeah.
Wait, that's what I was reading off of.
Okay.
What are we missing?
So we're on residential as our page 3.
Our page 3 is right.
Okay, starting with residential.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No,
Can you make some big copies for us?
Yes, I will do my best.
Wow. You know how?
Thank you.
All right, the first objective is to strengthen existing housing and neighborhoods. For actions, we have strengthened zoning standards to upgrade properties. Use a 5-minute walking radius to define neighborhoods, provide for access to a central open space, natural feature and or civic feature. Redevelop neighborhood infrastructure with new water and sewer utilities and sidewalks where needed. Priorities will be updated annually in the capital improvement plan. Work with the Historic District Commission to establish a housing renovation mini grant program to encourage homeowners to maintain and upgrade their historic homes. These are fairly straightforward, and I don't think we introduced anything new that wasn't in your old plan. Would you have any comments regarding these? All right.
That looks fine.
The next objective, encourage new residential areas to attract middle to high income families. We eliminated the first two, and we kept maintain and improve quality schools and cooperate when possible with the school district. Next objective, ensure that new community development reflects the village character of Holly. For actions we have, include access to central open space and or civic feature for new developments, include a variety of housing types to create a balanced neighborhood, create incentives for mixed density housing variety within the zoning ordinance, and include pedestrian amenities in new developments, including sidewalks, nature trails, connections to public parks, and connections to existing commercial areas. Next objective, protect and strengthen the viability of existing neighborhoods by controlling the expansion of businesses which are adjacent to residential areas. Action items, we propose using obscuring walls, setback requirements, transitional land uses, and other buffers to separate residential areas from commercial and industrial uses. Proactively rezone lands that are currently zoned or used for inappropriate businesses in residential areas to a residential use. And we weren't sure about that one. Is that something you are interested in?
I'm not sure we have vacant land that fits that.
Yeah, 'cause wouldn't that be
Well-
spot zoning if it was rezoned?
Actually, when we get to reviewing the future land use, there is some of this, I think, that we are looking at changing some locations that are currently industrial and changing them to a residential so that we can redevelop them in a different direction in the future.
And that's a
the-
gentler approach, because we're proposing a proactive rezoning, which is pretty aggressive. Does
I
that
think that might go hand in hand when we start looking at certain locations and then go, okay, as we're putting these into the master plan, there are certain ones that we know we want to change.
Mhm. So as a board, are you interested in going with a more aggressive rezoning route, or would you want to go a gentler, updating the future land use map, and then letting the property owners decide whether they want to be rezoned?
What do you think?
Well, actually, if you take this at face value and you read the way it's written, it says, property that's currently used. It says, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so it's correcting inappropriate uses.
Right. So it could be,
So you're talking about rezoning existing
Correct.
businesses?
So if there's a
if
business
you
causing a
add
problem,
inappropriate business for, I mean,
Good luck.
that's why I
You
stopped
shut a
here.
person's business down by rezoning it, and I'm just thinking a lawyer might call, I don't know, you know.
Well, you can't force some, like, we can't take, like, where your business
Mhm.
is, and then say, we are going to rezone that to residential, and tell you you have to, change your business to
No, but if you ever
residential.
wanted to modify your building or
Correct.
anything of that nature, you are held to the restrictions of, and
Mhm.
some of these, we have to look at it realistically. Like, on the strip where I'm at, we've gotten complaints from the residential area behind us, which is the street that I also live on, you know,
Mhm.
Brennan. And that commercial, that industrial, was there long before
Right.
there
I
was
think that-
residential, so why we would.
I think some of that falls into the creating better buffers,
Right.
between.
And that I can
the
get on
two.
board with, but.
But there are certain certain areas within the community that, I know I've had individuals talk with me about saying this would be better utilized as residential.
I can envision some of these same ones, yeah. Yeah,
Right, and so
right.
I think that's more where this is going, and to actively say, we are changing those,
Right.
instead of just letting it roll in a master plan.
Right.
Right.
And I'm personally interested in seeing that happen.
The more aggressive
The more-
route.
Right,
Okay.
selecting some locations that we need to reevaluate.
Right. And it's specifically for lands that are currently zoned and are used for inappropriate businesses. So it means it's targeted. You're picking specific issues that have come up. You're not rezoning the entire map. It would just be a few properties.
Example, would it be like on Elm Street, the old factory?
Yes,
And since that would be commercial, correct, or industrial?
it's currently industrial.
Okay, then that, someone could come in and say, okay, I wanna take that right down and put in a condo.
Right,
Then it could be,
right.
okay,
And that we would be intentionally rezoning that
right.
so that it heads that way, instead of just placing it in the master plan that says, we would like that.
Yes,
Right.
okay.
Right,
That
yes,
was as an example.
Yep.
So
yep,
that was one of the properties
Yes,
I was thinking. so.
yes,
I'm on board with that, the general concept as far as some of them that we know are
Right.
issues. I guess I always get nervous about, you know, the whole slippery slope, like who decides?
right.
You know, which ones need to be changed and which ones don't.
Well, when you go through a rezoning like that, it's just like the last rezoning we did. It still has to come, go through a public hearing and, all of that. We can't just arbitrarily
Right,
Right.
just say,
Right.
you know what, we're flipping this. It has to go through that same process
And the township board is still the one that decides, so.
Right.
So I'm gonna keep that then. Moving on, locate commercial, office, and industrial uses so that traffic can reach these businesses without traveling through neighborhoods. Fairly straightforward. Next objective, create opportunities for single-family redevelopment and additional choice in higher density housing such as condominiums and cluster housing and richer visual appeal and variety of the housing stock in general. I'm gonna reword that because I don't like the way it sounds. So we're proposing to prohibit the conversion of single-family homes to multiple family housing unless properties are already zoned RM. Consider and study housing stock maintenance programs, including a property maintenance code, code enforcement upon sale, landlord licensing, and assisted housing rehabilitation. And consider having a housing study to evaluate what housing stock is available and what are those who want to be in the area desire to be more competitive. So I think what that last one is trying to say is conducting a study to find out what's actually missing in terms of your stock. So of all the people that want to move to Holly, what are they looking for? What are they not finding in Holly? Where can we bridge those gaps? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. And you don't have page 4, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, we're going to skip to 5.
Anything divisible by 2.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to talk about parks now. Improve existing parks and create more parks. 62% in the community survey supported this. We propose feature Waterworks Park as a hub for area parks and recreation areas and create a strong link to the downtown business area. Prepare a park plan for Falk Road site, which emphasizes active recreational uses such as sports facilities, baseball and softball diamonds, and/or soccer fields. Prepare a plan for active sport facilities at the middle school, and continue to update and implement the village's 5-year recreation plan so that the village can obtain grant funds.
Okay. Falk Road is not in the village.
Right.
That's a township.
Is that a change? Because that action item was in the previous master plan.
Well, there was the site that was on Falk Road that the village, I think, still owns, where they had
That,
dumped.
that's the
years-
dump.
Yeah.
Right. I'm wondering if this was supposed to refer to, like Sorensen Park or something like that.
There's
That's
Sorensen
because
Park.
that-
There's-
Township too.
there's
That,
Township.
Sorensen Park is within the village.
Oh, Sorensen Park.
Sorensen Park,
This one.
the village runs on the south side of, East Holly Road, all the way to include Sorensen Park.
Okay. Where does it, you probably don't have this, but where on Falk Road is all this supposed to take place? Does it say?
Nope, so we just copy and pasted from the old master
I
plan.
think that's what they meant, is Falk Road is right there, and then Sorensen is,
All right,
I think that's,
Oh, you're talking about perhaps in Sorensen? Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's-
Thank you, sir.
all right, I'll just change it to say Sorensen.
Thank you, sir.
Because that was done in 2007,
Yeah,
Yep.
so
okay,
I know Falk
Thank
Road
you.
is right there, and then Sorensen Park, and Sorensen is the village.
right,
Falk is not.
right.
Like Richard said, one
Right,
side is the
that-
village, one.
So, right, Falk Road is not village property, so,
All right,
or within the village, so, that would need to be modified.
all right. Any other comments on that objective? All right, so I'm gonna jump back now to page 4 and finish up residential.
This may not be the place for the comment for the private, because we are going to increase the amount of park space that we have, which is wonderful, but we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure to maintain and patrol said
Right.
parks.
Good
Because
point.
we have a lot of parks right now that are underutilized.
Right.
Lakeside Park. It's great, but there's, sometimes it's not always mowed, sometimes it's not,
Yeah.
the playground equipment is fairly deteriorated, and, you know, there's big splotches where the wood chips don't exist anymore, and there's just bare, so, if we just looking at more spots like that,
Do-
great, but.
So maybe we need to include something that talks about improvements or enhancements to existing parks?
I think we could,
Maintenance,
yeah, make
Maybe
a
it's
significant movement
maintenance,
towards
yeah.
What page are we
enhancing
on?
existing
I like
parks.
that.
yeah.
I live, sorry, but I live a few houses down from Sorenson, so I had some real concerns about some major park coming in there, noise and traffic and so forth, so. And, unless I'm wrong, is there still not, plans for a mobile home park on Falk Road, the controversial,
Yeah,
expansion of that?
yeah,
Right.
phase 2, whatever.
All right, so I added prioritize maintenance of existing parks as a new action item. Did you want to remove any reference to adding more parks, or do you want to at least keep that in the plan so you have the option?
Should keep it. Keep it for an option.
Okay.
But I think we do need to address maintenance and a plan, a program to maintain what we have.
Sure. And that would be in the parks plan,
Yeah.
but we'll make sure it mentions that in here too. All right, so I'm going back to page 4. All right, and we're starting industrial. So the first objective, encourage relocation of industrial uses from the Saginaw corridor. For actions, we have determined how much industrial land is currently being used in the village that would need to be relocated. So take an inventory. And then work with surrounding townships if necessary to identify locations for future industrial uses that may be annexed. And then continue to update the list of available properties in the downtown area and engage with the MEDC through the RRC program to develop or redevelop these properties. Next objective, improve the quality of industrial properties that are newly constructed or redeveloped that do not cause off-site impacts to surrounding properties. And we propose evaluate the existing standards in the zoning ordinance for industrial sites and revise if necessary. And work with industrial property owners to improve the appearance of industrial uses in the South Coggeshall, did I say that right? Road area and in other areas where there are existing industrial uses. And then we eliminated the following 2 objectives, so that would be it for industrial. Comments or concerns?
Well, I see unless I'm missing something, we're encouraging the relocation of industrial sites along Saginaw, but we have crossed off identify sites for potential industrial relocation. Seem like they would somewhat go hand in hand.
Yeah, actually, I think
your first one
Or am
addresses
yeah,
that
what
a
am I
little bit.
missing?
yeah, but I think I'm just gonna move that. I'm gonna add identify sites for potential industrial relocation. I think that would be good under
Doesn't
the
it make
objective.
sense if we're recommending or encouraging movement that we'd have some sort of idea where we're trying to move them to?
All right, I agree. Any other changes? All right, back to Parks and Recreation. Encourage the development of quality recreation space throughout the village. Action items, new community development to reflect the village character of Holly. Include access to central open space and/or civic features for new developments. Create connections between existing neighborhoods and commercial areas where they currently do not exist, such as between the Woodlands of Holly Senior Housing Complex and the Grange Hall North Holly Road commercial area.
Okay, what are we talking about doing there? What does that look like?
For connections, I would imagine improving sidewalks and,
Because there's a brand-new sidewalk in there.
okay.
Maybe that's a fulfillment of the previous master plan.
Are there any other areas you would want to connect? Because I think that's just one
Just an example.
example.
Okay.
It's up to you if you want to keep it in there. If you think you already fulfilled this, we can remove it.
That one particularly, of
Okay.
connecting Woodlands
That's good,
with
yeah.
Grange, with the Grange Hall and North Holly corridor has already been done. For a sidewalk anyhow.
Yeah, and that's what it's talking about. Otherwise, bike paths.
I know there was a lot of discussion about a sidewalk going to the high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would be, that one needs to be a joint venture between the village and the township, in making that happen.
Just for
I
sheer
know that
safety.
there's a lot of interest in that, yes.
Both the meetings we had, I fielded questions personally about a sidewalk from downtown to the high school.
Do you think that's something you would want in the plan?
Yeah, I'd even term it a pedestrian path, as opposed to just saying a sidewalk, so.
I think that is a real goal that we should strive for,
Mhm.
just for safety alone. I mean, I see kids 2:30 walking down that or Holly Road all the time.
And there are sections where it's,
Tight,
Oh, yeah.
embanked, yeah.
you know, it's embankment,
swamp.
right next to, you know, the section between the two churches there, has a steep embankment. And, yeah, it's easy to, kids have to walk on the road.
Okay. So I added build a pedestrian path from the village to the high school.
Yep.
Next objective, create a system of non-motorized links between parks, recreation areas, and neighborhoods. So actually that might go better under this objective. Continue to participate in the Headwaters Trails Initiative with the goal of creating a more regional system of pathways outside of the village, linking to major recreational land. Protect and manage the Shiawassee River as a recreational resource. Create hiking and canoe trail from Waterworks Park to the village boundary, linking with Headwaters Group regional trail system. Develop a network of sidewalks, pathways, and trails connecting parks and natural features in the village with regional system of it's kind of redundant. I'm gonna remove that. Create new sidewalks and or improve existing sidewalks between neighborhoods and parks. And create a non-motorized transportation plan to evaluate the priorities, prioritize improvements.
And so you're gonna put that one about the pedestrian pathway to the high school
Yep.
in this section.
All right, so we already did improve existing parks and create more parks. So now I'm jumping down to protect the wellhead protection area, groundwater for the Village of Holly's drinking water source. For strategies, we have create or utilize existing information about strategies to minimize vulnerabilities to the groundwater supply to distribute to residents and property owners that are within the WHPA. Develop zoning ordinances and site plan review that require strategies to minimize vulnerabilities to the groundwater supply in the WHPA. Create a WHPA overlay or zoning district that does not allow significant sources of water supply contamination such as landfills, surface impoundment areas, laundromats, and other identified land uses. Develop an emergency water supply plan. Complete an analysis of the existing groundwater availability of the public water service system to evaluate present and future demands and vulnerabilities. Develop a procedure or guideline for increasing the PWSS to address demands and vulnerabilities. Contact Holly Township and Rose Township to work on adopting ordinances or acknowledging the Village of Holly's WHPA. And educate residents and property owners that are within the WHPA on the Wellhead Protection Program.
Just a quick question, I wonder, is this the place for us to think about adding the area, the village, to take a look at the PFAS, whether that's an issue locally. I'm not sure, has any testing been done, but I certainly hear about the problem in other communities throughout the state. And it is a big problem, a growing problem, and hopefully we don't have it here in Holly. But my point is, I'm not sure we know that. And so I wonder if we want to add specifically some wording about that here somewhere.
I think that makes sense.
Okay?
I'm trying to think if any of these kind of cover that. But we can specifically talk about that.
I would like to see that.
How would you like it worded?
Just if we're doing a study or some evaluation, maybe specifically say to ensure that we include testing for PFAS.
All right.
Do you want to just leave it that or for other contaminants?
Sure. This one,
All right.
PFAS, another contaminant, are you saying, or?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Moving on, ensure public access points to lakes within the village. We propose requiring that all new developments provide public easements to lakes and rivers for pedestrian and or watercraft access, and negotiate easements within existing neighborhoods where possible. Project the aesthetic and ecological values of lakes and wetland areas. We propose creating design standards for all waterfront development that preserves the views around the lakes.
I want to back us up a minute and talk
Sure.
about this pedestrian use and watercraft access. Because most of our bodies of water are not they're not public, they're not motorsport. And so the ones that do have that in small amounts already have some form of access.
So do you think it's unnecessary? Are you proposing removing that line? Because I think the idea is just to increase access. But if you think it's sufficient, we can remove that.
I don't know.
I think access to lakes are important. I know my kid is a real avid fisherman, and he doesn't have a vehicle and he takes his canoe, him and his buddies, and they hike it around. And they go to the local lakes around us.
So do you think
But they have to
that
get permission from the neighbor to go
Right.
down there.
which ones do you think do not have access?
Simonson? I know there's a lot of people that fish right there on that,
Yeah, that little access,
it's just not really,
just walk up.
it's really not accessible though.
Well, what about Bevins?
Hmm.
I mean, there's no
No, there's not, but there's no access.
access at all. But I think it says in my deed that there is access. My deed was written in 1951, so,
Well, it might be access for a property owner,
yeah. But
but it might not be a public easement.
Yeah, I don't think there's, I don't even know where that would be. Should be public though.
I know there's an easement on Hubble for the residents.
Well, this says take a look at that issue, is that what it's saying?
No, it's proposing to require all new developments provide easements.
So new development, like a new lake?
No, like a,
Construction on the lake.
yeah, like a new commercial development or something.
I mean, there's no open spots on Bevins or,
Well, 400 Elm could be demolished and be condos. There are some options out there where
Right.
we could have demolition and new projects where we could require easements, and I think of Elm as a perfect example.
Well, and that's one of our pieces we're talking about changing, or looking at the rezone there. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Encourage stormwater best management practices and developments such as bioswales and rain gardens. This got 60% support in the community survey. And that's it for Parks and Rec. Any other comments? I believe we already did transportation last time. So we finished.
Wow.
All right. Thank you.
Made it much easier with these nice big pages. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So
That's
did
it,
you
the
want to
master plan?
Sorry?
talk?
Is that, where are we at in the master plan? Just so,
Yeah.
I'm kinda on the loop on it, I guess. I don't, where are we at with the progress and?
How far behind are we?
We're pretty far behind. I think 2 months. But I believe the next step, next month, we'll be going over the future land use plan.
Okay.
So that'll be, I know we kind of started discussing various things, so start keeping in mind things you might want to change about the map. And we'll begin discussing that next month. And then I still today have to go over the results from the open house.
Okay.
So I might as well just jump into that.
Yeah, good. That's this section.
Yep.
Good, that's what I was,
So we're gonna forward you guys a copy of the official zoning map tomorrow, Janelle is.
That's
So
awesome.
you guys will have time to review
I
that.
did put it in the last packet. Maybe I should email it since some people aren't getting their.
could we have it in a size like this?
I can come down and get mine, okay, Janelle? I'll come down and get mine.
But I think if I mail it to you guys, maybe that's probably easier. Obviously,
However,
yeah.
although my son does love it when Samuels pulls up in the driveway. He's like, the cops are here, the cops are here.
You might want to send the future land use map as well.
That's what we're talking about,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so open house. We had our open house on January 29th, 2020 at the Village Hall. We held 2 sessions, one from 1 to 3:30 or 1 to 3, and the second from 6 to 8. We had pretty good turnout. If you remember the visioning session last summer, we had kind of a disappointing turnout, so I thought it was reassuring. We got 39 people. I think there were more than that, but 39 people turned in the questionnaires we passed out. So we had 5 boards that went over transportation, pedestrian, residential, lakes, and commercial development issues. And so now I'm just going to go over some of the results from the questionnaire. We asked how important it is to have a cohesive system of roads, paths, greenways, and gateways. 67% said very important. We asked how supportive you are of continuing to pursue development of an additional north-south corridor in the village. And we had 44% very supportive and 12% supportive. Then we asked people to rank from 1 to 10 how they felt about possible strategies. So a millage to repair and update roads got 6.7, and continue to utilize the capital improvement plan to help prioritize road repairs got 8.2. So on the pedestrian board, we asked how important it was to make the village a friendly environment for pedestrians. 53% said very important, 34% said important. We asked how important it is to have more designated pedestrian crosswalks between Maple Street to Elm Street on Saginaw Street. 20% said very important, and 44% said important. We asked how supportive they are of working with the township to connect the high school to the village offices. 38% very important, 23% supportive. Next, we asked to rank the strategy of developing a sidewalk quality condition assessment. It got 7.5. Continue sidewalk improvement program, incorporate into the CIP. That got 7. Continue to support implemented non-motorized transportation plans. 6.3. Adopt a millage to improve and expand the natural trailways in the village. 6. And adopt a millage to improve the existing sidewalk infrastructure. 5.8. On the residential section, we asked how important is it to create opportunities for single-family redevelopment and additional choice in higher density housing such as condominiums and cluster housing. 47% said important, 17% undecided, 17% not very important, and 14% very important. So people were all over the map on that one. We posed a few strategies and asked them to rank them. The first was work on being a community that allows for aging in place, 7.7. Conduct a housing study to evaluate the existing housing stock and identify deficiencies, 7.6. Provide and encourage more missing middle housing options, 6.6. Increase the amount of senior housing, 6.6. Amend the zoning ordinance to allow mixed density housing variety, 5.4. And provide more incentives to encourage cluster housing, 4.8. Next, we asked how important they were, how supportive they are of preserving and maintaining the village's natural features as the centerpiece of the community. 62% said very important, 35% said important. And existing Lakeview protection provisions in the zoning ordinance regarding fencing and accessory building placement, 46% are very supportive of that, and 49% are supportive.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
So is that saying that they are for fences and accessory structures or against it?
So that is for preserving views.
So against it, against accessory structures and fences.
Right.
I field probably 50 calls a summer about garden sheds on the lakeside. And everyone's denied because of that clear vision ordinance. So I deal with a lot of very upset lake owners because they have two front yards, no accessory structures in the front yard. And then you also have the clear vision ordinance where it's a 45-degree angle off the farthest neighbor's line of sight. So
Kind of in that boat, you know.
you're a lake resident.
Yeah, and it's, it can be quite hand tying at times, especially when where I'm at, Bevan's Curves, the house just to the south of me, east of me, doesn't actually have lake access of any kind. But,
It is a very, he is very unique.
It is, it's like, I can't put a fence up because you somehow have, you know, you have the right to look at the lake that I pay taxes.
It's great, and that's part of this
It
discussion.
can be tough. It can be a hard, you know.
I imagine you'll get just as many calls if we start allowing them to build and people are losing their views. So I think it's lose-lose.
It is a lose-lose, yeah.
All right.
I know there are some communities that did not have some of this, and, you know, people end up building right up to the water line, and it destroys not just your neighbor's view, but it destroys the aesthetic. And so, you know, I think we're looking at some things that are beyond just making your neighbor allowing your neighbor to see past your house or structure, but also the general aesthetic that gets created. So
Yep.
I think we also have to be careful not to overstep our bounds so far that we're infringing on one's rights to, you know, my property, I pay the taxes on it, I bought this, if you wanted it, you could have bought it as well, you know? But it goes the same way. I mean, if somebody said I wanna put 47 junk cars in my front yard, I'd say, no, you're not doing that. They can use the same argument. I understand.
All right. We presented 6 options to people and asked them to rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. The first was continue to participate and implement the Wellhead Protection Plan, 8.7. Work with Friends of the Shiawassee River Group to protect water quality, 8.7. Continue the design standards for all waterfront development that preserves the views around the lakes, 8.5. Encourage stormwater best management practices such as bioswales and rain gardens, 8.2. Create stronger zoning ordinance regulations to protect the view of the lake, 7.3. And decrease regulation regarding the view of the lake, 2.9. And then the commercial section, we asked how important it is to provide sufficient land and use diversity for commercial and office uses. 55% said important, 18% said very important. How important it is to improve the appearance of the village's commercial districts. 49% said very important, 40% said important. And how important it is to increase the amount of mixed-use development in the village. 37% important, 32% undecided. And we asked what level of intensity they would support, either low-intensity commercial with more residential or medium-intensity commercial and residential with high-intensity commercial and residential. So we were proposing different mixes of densities. The preference was to have medium-density commercial with residential. That got 2.18 out of 3. And this was closely followed by low-density commercial with more residential, which got 2.17 out of 3. And high-density commercial was ranked 1.85 out of 3. In the downtown area, it was asked how important is it that new development and redevelopment fits in with the existing historic downtown character. 97% said very important or important. And then we proposed 4 strategies. The first, evaluate different strategies to improve parking in the downtown area, 8.6. Review the zoning ordinance provisions for new development and redevelopment so that architectural styles are compatible with historic buildings, 8. Provide incentives for building upgrades, 7.9. And encourage owner-occupied residences on the upper floors of historic downtown buildings, and I got 7.4. So that is it for the open house. Was anyone who was there have any comments on it?
Well, I got a lot of information.
Okay. I thought it was a success.
The afternoon was definitely a big turnout.
I thought it would be bigger, but
Well, I heard the afternoon one that I was at was more people than the evening.
yep.
I think the clerk had something to do with that too, though.
Yeah. And that's definitely something we'll keep in mind moving forward, is pairing things. It just works better.
Yeah, that was intentional, you know. We want to thank Katie Hughes or Katie Golden, sorry. Katie Golden for thinking of that coordination. She was trying to come up with multiple things that could happen at the same time. And
Yeah, it's a good idea.
that worked very well, yeah. I think the comments that I've gotten from people who attended were all very positive. You know, people came away with a good feeling about the things that were presented, and felt they were able to give good input.
Good. I was reassured by how many people stuck around, because we do quite a few of these, and usually people fill out their questionnaire and then they leave.
Mhm.
But a lot of people just stuck around and sat at the tables for quite a while. So it's always good to see that.
So you done?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do any reports. Do we have somebody from ZBA? Nobody from ZBA that's here, right? Anything, can you report on ZBA?
We have a meeting Monday for Handy Andy's site plan
Okay,
for 2 variances that hopefully will be coming to you guys next month.
okay,
As you see, I took them off. They just weren't ready.
right. And that's a thank you too, that, so that we're not going through paperwork that then we're having to look at all those details that,
We could also have another one coming, 104 Maple.
Next month.
Yep, next month. That's, what's her name?
Sweet.
The lady that sews.
Kelly?
Kelly, thank you.
Kelly's upstairs.
So that whole complex is going in for site plan review. It'll be here next month.
that's with a new owner, correct?
That is a new owner, yep.
Yes.
He's been a contractor, he's been working on Andy's place, a few projects with Vincent Curry, so he just bought that building and we just got the plans got the second revision, I think.
So is that, are they looking at doing some modifications on the exterior? Is that needing to go to historical as well? That's not in the historic district?
It's historic district, but not a historic parcel.
Really?
That's odd.
until the boundaries at the HTC are clarified and put into ordinance, right now we're operating on the parcel system.
Wow.
But we have been in many conversations with them.
They're
Go-
interested in following
Yes, they
the
are.
historical plan.
Yes.
I did notice the post on Facebook that was asking for original photographs, so.
Yes, they are wanting to duplicate as much as they can within financial,
Right.
mostly the front facade.
Mhm.
The sides will be a
Sure.
little more modern with the front facade.
How about anything DDA? So we're going through our list here.
I know Katie, she's always got a ton of stuff
Sure.
going, but Lori would be the one to,
I think that they are, I know they have begun plans for Ladies' Night Out.
yep.
Oh,
I see her
That
doing
is
that
the
today.
first Saturday in May this year, I believe.
It is-
Before Mother's Day.
It's Friday night.
Oh, yeah, Friday night,
Friday
sorry,
night,
yes.
May 1st.
Yep. Friday night, May 1st is Ladies'
I
Night.
was just at the meeting last
Sure,
night.
yeah. So I know that's a major thing that they are working on. With council, we are beginning the budget process for the next budget. That meeting is next week on
Study session, right?
Thursday, study session, that will take place in the community room in the other part of the Carl Richter building.
What time is that?
7, I thought.
Was it
I think it's a
7?
7 o'clock evening meeting, yes.
I have it written down in my other
Right,
village
right.
ones, so.
That's our major thing. And historic, we're kind of,
Mr. DeSessa?
oh, sure.
Yeah, the meeting this month, we didn't have a quorum, so no meeting till next month. But we've been meeting most months, so that's good.
Yeah, and they are working on the boundaries, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can
Right.
get that squared away.
Yep, I know that's,
It's a top
it's
priority.
close to being presented to council.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do comments. We can start with Mr. Steele. Nothing?
Nothing.
Miss Lacy?
The American Legion is having a pancake breakfast this Sunday morning.
Yep.
This coming Sunday, March the 1st,
Mhm.
and it's from 8 until noon. I'll be there helping.
Yep, American Legion.
Yes, the
Mhm.
American Legion. And I think it's $7 for all you can eat. And it has pancakes, sausage, coffee, orange juice water. This month it is I think someone's birthday, so I think there's going to be a birthday cake.
Mm.
Well, as you smile.
I do understand that our police chief will
Yes,
be
our
there
chief is going to be there with
donning
his new apron.
apron, frilly apron.
Yes, his new frilly apron. Yes, most of the men have frilly aprons. Us women just have stripes, so.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Yep, yep,
So, and that's this coming Sunday.
yes, very good.
Very good. Nothing for me?
Okay. Anything?
I had just a question, maybe there's plans in order for it already, but the Tim Hortons, and Subway, the ingress, egress going on right there. Every time I go into Subway, I'm pulling directly over top of the outline for the Tim Hortons when they open up. Has anybody looked into that, or?
That's Oakland County Road Commission, and that was approved. That's out of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
That egress,
It's very
deacceleration.
bizarre. The way it looks to me is, how they've got that little island right there, and, right, stay on the right. If you go in on the right-hand side, you are facing the traffic
Incoming
coming
traffic.
out of the Tim Hortons drive-through.
Yeah,
I'm just curious as to how that's
I
gonna
think it's gonna
play
be
out.
signage is what it's gonna be, and
Yeah.
people just getting used to the new arrangement.
I didn't know if there was anything in play, because I actually asked one of the managers at Subway, I said, how's this gonna work? And she said, I have no idea. So, okay. At least you've got a
Personally,
plan.
that little island in the center is almost a hazard.
Oh, yeah. It deserves a sign. Put a sign
something.
in there so we could replace it every three,
Yeah, it's
4
not the
days.
biggest deal in the world.
Right,
I was
yeah.
just curious if there was, you know, because
Yeah.
once traffic starts going through both businesses, I don't want it to end up,
Yeah.
I don't know, headlights facing each other every 15 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
I was surprised they put that island in there. It serves no purpose.
Right, every time I come in there, I know, you know, to get especially like a truck around that island to come in and then park in the front of the plaza, it is a challenge.
The way I'm just viewing it, if Hortons owns that property line all the way up, I don't see Subway being able to do anything other than eliminating some of their curb space to the east and,
Well, it's a
And widening
shared,
their-
it's a shared entrance. That's the way it's designed, as a shared entrance.
And we're promoting more of that.
Mhm.
And I know Tim Hortons worked with a very tight constraint there. When we reviewed those plans, it was,
well,
that's why it had to come back to us a couple of times.
That's why I brought it up, is seeing it actually in real life. It's like, oh, man, you know, all right, and see how it plays out, I suppose.
Don't be opening the top of your coffee
Yeah,
as
no.
you're heading out.
No.
Pay attention to which
No.
lane you're going to.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay,
Anything?
so yes, I do. I was hoping Gary would be here tonight because we worked on this mission point together, Gary and I and you, right, Jeremy? You were here?
Yeah, I was here for Mission Point at the beginning.
So, it's without fail, I can drive down there and they have cars parked on the road, all the way up and down the road, or in the grassy area. Did we not give them enough parking, or what?
Yeah, so I think
What
there's a few
happens
things that happen there, but they have already agreed to pave that north side of the property there.
That little pie-shaped thing?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we were in works with them in the fall.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get the asphalt company and the paperwork in place, so.
Okay,
I know that is one of our top missions, and we
Yeah.
have already met with the owners on that, so
okay,
we will see that get cleared up this year, hopefully.
perfect. Yeah, because I couldn't remember what we did, because that was like, what, 8 years ago or something? It was
Yeah, it's been a while.
a while back, so.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, we made that suggestion to Row too, that we need to increase that parking there
Yeah.
in the zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
Because if you look at the ordinance, it's spot on with what we have,
Okay, number of employees and stuff like that.
beds and everything. yeah.
Because even on Sunday, I mean, they fill the entire street, you know, visitation day, you know, where,
I don't think we accounted for visitors like we should have.
I don't
Yeah.
think we did either. I think we accounted for employees and, you know, the vendors that would visit, and that was it.
We purposely avoid that road in the neighborhood, because I live back in that subdivision
Mhm.
too, for that,
Mhm.
that very reason. That
Yeah.
It's a one lane.
It's a
down to
one
the
lane,
center of it.
yep.
Yeah. That lot, we determined, did not have to come before us, correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was administration, because they are not moving enough cubic feet of soil.
Cool.
Right, yeah.
So I believe that was administrative review. I'd have to go back and look at Rose's comments on that. I don't
Yeah.
remember, it's been a few
That's what I
months.
understood, was
Yeah, I think
that
that's the correct
it was an
trend.
administrative
Okay, just to
approval.
sign off. and-
Right,
And still,
because
The overall,
the size of it was not something that came before us.
the overall improvement in that location is, you know,
Very
you
good.
can't
Oh,
argue
right, the
against
building itself would-
Right, but if we can get the cars off the road.
Well, that's a great looking building.
Yeah,
It is, it really worked out a lot nicer than what was there.
Mhm.
yeah. Anything else then?
No, I'm good.
That was the only one?
Yep.
Okay. I don't really have any public comments, or any thoughts. We don't have any public comment, so, I will say we adjourn our meeting at, what's our time? 'Cause I don't have any-
8:27.
8:27. Thank you.